one man alive who can make this comeback against Magnus today. It's him.
And maybe the best news is that the reduced time control, 3+1. This is where Alireza's bread might be buttered. He's got the white pieces to start off the segment. He's already played an Italian. Magnus responded with a weird medley of setups. H6, Bishop E7. That was the game where Magnus played the G5 move. So maybe Alireza wants him to remember that game to build up some momentum.
A3 is not a move you see in the Italian. So these guys are basically just playing whatever they want. A3 is not a move he would have played in the 5+1, I feel like. But it's a faster blitz control, Danya, so he's just trying to play on flow.
And maybe that's the biggest adjustment he needs to make. Play on intuition, avoid those big time deficits. Both players playing pretty quickly, but I like this for Alireza. Very typical idea. Knight to d5, super annoying. You can't take with the knight because the pawn recaptures with the fork if you take with the bishop, but you might have to, and then move the knight back to b8. You hand over the bishop pair. It's a pretty big asset in these lines.
And if the pawn takes on d5, it'll likely be traded on c6. That's exactly what happens. It's a great call by you. Here white can just play h3 and castles, or push for d4 potentially, but definitely we're going to see the bishop dropping back to b3 or a2 so that the queen side b and c pawns can get moving.
That's exactly right, because black can either go c6 as you pointed out, fight for the center, or deploy this knight to d7 and potentially to b6. So your celebration there with white might be short-lived, and that break felt like it lasted like 30 seconds. Magnus and Alireza are back in the saddle, they're back at their computer screens, and Alireza is back to pushing his a-pawn one more square.
Why was that such a bad move? And also, why did he not just castle? Like, why a4 now, right? Because it was clear that Magnus was going to play for c6, so, yeah, Alireza really surprising me. He's got to castle his king, Danya.
And he heard you, loud and clear, but Magnus occupies the center. Feels like black is now potentially in the driver's seat. White still has the bishop pair. It's not like this center is going to cause you trouble in the next 2 or 3 moves, but Magnus might get his bishop to d6, his rook to e8, and eventually a move like e5, e4 could be a problem. This bishop on a2 is also a problem.
That's true, and it went to c4, now it dropped back to a2. At some point, white's got to fight for something in the center of the board. He got everything on the third rank.
I think we're going to get a phase of the game where both sides kind of assemble their pieces in the center. I was going to say, I'm thinking about preparing b4, but preparing is not really in Alireza's dictionary. It's like, it's go time. The c6 pawn is in the crosshairs of white's queen. This is good full board awareness.
By the way, b5 for white is going to be a problem, so Magnus correctly takes, and now we're going to clear out a bunch of pawns and see what is remaining.
Queen takes c6, though, not automatically played by the Frenchman with 2 names. Maxime Lagrave. No, just kidding. Alireza Firouzja. Maxime might be somewhere close by. I'm sure most top players are watching this match. If you're not watching this match, you better be doing something really important, like running the world.
Yeah, if they're not watching the match, they're just jealous they're not playing in the final, so shout out to all top players watching. Why is he not taking on c6? What could possibly be better?
Or what could possibly be wrong with this move? He finally does it. Something was worrying him here. Now, the queen does not get trapped here. Rook to c8 may be a cause for concern. Maybe black even has a repetition, rook to b8, but clearly white is not the one fighting for an advantage here. Queen to a5. Oh. Now you've got a little threat here with rook e8. Magnus is so sharp once again.
He's got to get the queen out of there. Well, he could always go to b5, but then the question is that a trade that you want? You know, you've got some queen side opening up. You might be down a pawn, but you've got some compensation.
But you have to give up the a pawn. I think you got to save your queen. Queen a pawn. That's a hard decision, but I think I'll rather save the queen.
Where do you go here with white? And clearly Alireza doesn't know either because he's down a minute.
Bishop b3. So he sees something tactical after rook e8.
But what is it?
Queen b7, rook c7.
He just wants to go queen b5, I guess.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, we don't need to sack the queen. Although, yeah, if you go queen b7, rook b8, there might be queen a7. So yeah, might not be so easy.
53 seconds for Alireza. He's down 40 seconds on the clock. Can Magnus afford a move like rook a b8? That might be too slow though, Lev, because then the queen can evacuate, and perhaps the worst is behind.
Sure, but even at that point, what's the goal of white's position? You kind of drop back, but you don't have much forward momentum.
Bishop is still bad. Black's knight from d7 certainly does have some forward momentum. Another thing that doesn't have forward momentum is pawn on a4. Seems like it'll remain there for a long time.
Yet it's Magnus who is unhappy and goes for this position. Wow, that's a big transformation, and now it might be Alireza who gets a bunch of play.
And he gets 2 benefits. Now, the pawn on b5 is vulnerable, but he does get this a-file. He can use that right now with rook a7. He could give up the b5 pawn in order to activate his light squared bishop.
Bishop a4 is fantastic, then the f rook goes to b1 and c1, and this is not a position you want to play against two bishops.
Alireza is so skilled in these dynamic positions, but the time situation, we keep mentioning it, it has been on Magnus's side. The b5 pawn, it's on his side of the board. Does he gobble it up? Does he take the pain from the bishop appearing on a4?
And if he doesn't, what's he gonna do instead? Can he go? He can't really go d4 because knight g5 is a huge problem. e4, he does take on b5. Apparently rook a7 first was better.
Rook a7 first, that set up a massive threat of bishop a4. Now the knight on d7 is protected, so you can go back, but maybe not to b8 because that allows the other rook to infiltrate. Big decision by Magnus as the time situation equalizes, and just like game one, Levy, we're gonna get a slugfest here in the first game of the next segment.
Bishop c6 though, I think black is under a little bit too much pressure to feel happy with the extra pawn. He will likely have to chuck it, and we will head to an endgame, but Magnus could blunder here with 20 seconds on the clock.
Oh, rook c8, look at his back rank. Both sides struggling with a weak back rank and no time to make luft because Magnus threatens just to win white's bishop, trying to force Alireza's hand.
Maybe there's a rook b1, keep some rooks on the board. Now h3, you've got the time, but also d4 you can play and start maneuvering.
d4 trying to carve out the e5 square. I really like that move. 15 seconds for Alireza looking for the compensation.
g4! What? If you take, there's bishop d7 and the threat is g5, and if h6, then h4.
What do you do? Knight to b8 maybe by Magnus? He's got to escape. He goes d4.
Now that move, rook c5 is cold-blooded.
And he gets the pieces off the board. g5 still a threat, so he pins the bishop.
Oh, that's devastating. And now Alireza's frozen. The knight is going to go to c3.
Oh my gosh, and that is the consequence of d4. 6 seconds for Firouzja, maybe rook b2.
That was insanely sharp.
He defends the rook, but look at Magnus's knights. They encircle all of white's weaknesses. d3 is going to be lost.
Yeah, it's just lost, and Magnus is going to be 2 pawns up.
There were some games Alireza lost. This one Magnus is about to win. He will win a second pawn, and now it's a matter of technique and keeping an eye on your clock.
You can't go f6 here.
e3.
That's a little scary. Now apparently he's blundered it. There was bishop f8.
Oh, bishop c1. What a move by Alireza, forcing the knight back.
Now bishop b5. Wow,
hitting the other knight.
He's under so much pressure here.
Magnus, the way he's using his knights here, but both sides down in 2 seconds. Firouzja still alive.
He's alive.
h6 is coming. Knight f5.
Oh, knight f5 is incoming.
Bishop f8.
h6 maybe.
h6, he tries g6, he wants to go bishop h6 at the right moment.
Oh my gosh.
Magnus blunders a pawn.
Blunders a pawn, now Alireza's maybe playing for a win.
And he's got to move.
Oh my
He gives up the pawn again, and I think Magnus, he's got to watch out.
I think we're heading for a draw.
Alireza wins back pawn again.
We're heading for a draw, Tanya.
This might take up the entire 3-minute segment.
Oh my goodness. Knight c6, you can't trade into a pawn endgame
because it's so easy to miss a fork here. How many times have I done that? 2 knights that are jumping around.
Yeah, but you sometimes have to keep the king active.
King f1 escaping. Good job keeping distance between the king and the minor pieces.
Oh my goodness, he's attacking the knight. Knight f3, f4. Don't get mated here if you're playing white.
Absolutely, that's possible. Look at Magnus again. The knight starts.
Oh, how's there no mate? Oh, he's gonna lose the pawn.
He loses the pawn again.
How could he?
But no, but bishop takes g5 there. Knight takes f4. We'll get
that's
knights versus
and he's getting it. We're gonna get it. Oh my goodness!
Is this winning or is this a draw?
No one ever knows. This is the most mysterious endgame in chess. Sometimes you can stalemate the white king, and white has to push the pawn and gets mated. He's not taking it because if he does,
Magnus might win this. So the basic idea, Levy, is if this pawn were gone, it's an automatic draw. The server makes it a draw, but with the pawn on the board, black can trap white's king, and then he force the pawn and move and avoid stalemate.
Oh my gosh, and he's doing it, but does he have enough time? It's made in 26.
I couldn't do this with 24 hours on my clock.
But the thing is, you force the white king to the corner, you stalemate the king, and then it's checkmate. But I'm not sure Magnus has the time, Danya. When was the last capture? 50 move rule.
Oh my gosh, but he's getting the king into the right spot. Look at how he's doing it.
This is unbelievable. What was the 50 move rule? He might actually have a draw on the board.
But how do you get the king? If you get the king to h1, that's the hardest part. He's trying it the other way. I don't think he's making it happen here. He came so close.
Oh, now the king's running back. Oh, it's looking like a draw.
And the king out the other side, out the back door it goes.
King f5, king f6. You need the king to have activity. That was insane. It's not over yet, though. It's never too late to hang your king.
King e5 here would lose the game.
Yes.
What an attempt by Magnus. What a defensive effort by Firouzja.
Firouzja will hold. He will hold this game.
117 moves. How many moves to the 50 move rule?
Yeah, seriously. And it will kick in. There will not be a chess.com bug that makes this game endless. There it is. Oh.